let's think and riff on this thing. So we've had the revelation of the decision, right? States as a whole across the board have told you the way things are gonna go down for a little while. We now know how things are gonna go down for a little while. Unless, of course, you have no idea what it means to have a change of mask in an office of a government. Right? We're going to go through our thing. We're going to watch a basic sense of what they said they would do. And then, of course, the process just allows the enemy to ruin it. And, nobody really complains because we're this dumb. And we must have leaders from within us. And the best that we have to offer ourselves are some pretty fucking dumb people. Bear with me. This time of year, the sun is right there, and I gotta hop up a hill and then turn a corner on a very busy intersection next to a gas station. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway. If the result of this day had gone the other way, what I would have explained to you is that they are trying to mismatch the system again. They believed that if they would steal it 4 years ago, then you would submit to their ways because look who won. And then we proved that it doesn't matter, as by the end of that first year, we had kind of destroyed everything that they wanted to do outside of what they could do at the top level. As far as the personal support of people living their lives on the ground, they had lost everything. They don't have the spirit for it, the whatever. So, would have had her win, we would have continued to slowly force them to not be able to do any of the things that they can or want to do. Because that is not the general vibe that the country wanted, right? We are living in, we've been living in the product of what is an openly stolen thing, which is revealing to you how irrelevant it all was, right? Because at the very least, when things get really fucked up on the levels that you're talking about, there are multiple tiers, right? There ain't nothing to fucking worry about. You know, there's your governor, right? And then your governor, it's just a microcosm of the same fucking thing, but it might be a completely different kind of consensus reality that you are choosing to put up with. I choose to put up with the consensus reality of my part of the American territories. What's up, Theo? Oh, I'm just talking about another day for the slave. Just another day for the slave. Being very, very excited that they will get fresh bread instead of stale bread. They're very excited that there will be new clowns in the circus instead of the same song and dance. Lindsay, Grand Rising. How you doing, sweetheart? So, you don't have a difference that matters at all because you're not going to change who you are, what you want to do, how you think the nature of people should be and commerce should be. You're not going to change that personally for yourself ever, right? You're just going to be either happy or disappointed that consensus reality agrees with you. And that's all that your vote, all that your vow does is give you a permission slip to feel good, because you don't give yourself permission to feel good. You need a winning team to feel good for you. And that's it. That's it. So you ignore the illusion of anything that you think they're telling you your vows do for you when they are there. But you haven't convinced your neighbors about what is right and wrong and how things go, right? And of course, we're talking about what, telling people what's right and wrong, you know, like in a personal, direct, like, none of your fucking business way. That's the problem, right? Is that it isn't my business, right? But at the end of the day, it's my business if for some strange reason you've now admixtured right and wrong within the confines of your personal domestic privacy versus overreaching into my domestic privacy, right? Regardless of whether, we kept the same political party or whatever in that group or not, guess what was still going to happen? They were still going to put an end to raiding your house to get your squirrel. Why? Why are they going to do that despite the person who supported it? Because it's not about the person in their face in office. It's about your attitude about what you say our organizing principle as a collective identity we call a nation ought to be. And we all said what happened to Peanut and his owner was obviously wrong. And we're going to tell you that you're wrong. We can talk to the government like that, but we can't talk to our neighbors. And and I understand it. It was a neighbor that was in the wrong, that made a call in, that an order follower that just needed to fucking, jackboot thug his day away before an election wanted to do. Look, dude, that was fucking done on fucking purpose. That was done on purpose to make the current administration look bad as a revealed declaration of who you say you are. That's all it is. The squirrel was sacrificed so the nation could ask a question of who it really is. Are we a jackbooted thug that destroys innocent lives, both animal and human? Right? You doing nobody no fucking favors. Right? It ultimately doesn't matter. Some cop probably did that, say like, fuck this bitch, I'm gonna make her look bad, and I love making people suffer. Right? And so, this is some asshole fucking pulled the trigger on an order to fucking do a thing with a famous fucking person and his even more famous fucking pet. And act like it's just another fucking day. And Donald Trump kisses that guy's ass, while Kamala Harris kisses the ass of the bureaucrat who gave the jackboot thug the authority in their imagined playground of violence. state is a monstrous fucking thing that sometimes has a kind face. And you fall for it every fucking time because of what you think a state is and what you think that means your relationship with it is in its best service. And you're also fucking afraid to fucking be the guy who believes there shouldn't be a state, because that makes very insecure people show you how fucking insecure they are as they look at you in pariah. Because they think you're suspicious. Like, oh no, only criminals say they don't want the state to exist. No. The problem is that you don't know the difference between humans' personal action, and you don't trust somebody that's been a friend of yours for years and years and years, or people in your community that you know for years and years and years, to not even be in a state, but just to say, we're in a state that this is a beautiful place to be, and we want you to have all the things you want and be happy in it, yada yada yada, and there's no need for a fucking mayor, there's no reason to fucking vow on anything, it's all just the way it is and the way it ought to be. Under, basic realities of human whatever. And then otherwise, we're making decisions about all other manner of real issues that emerge, that don't get debated amongst the adults and the elders in an official waste my time capacity, until it's been discussed by everybody to say, wait a minute, this is serious enough to bring to, basically an all thing, right? It's like, it is convenient that when I try and think about how things work without a state, the closest I can think of is just the manner in which we allegedly did things in the Bronze Age. But of course, if the Bronze Age, if you can't demonstrate some form of good modernity that we all want, like this vehicle and this internet and this fucking fine clothing that I'm wearing, and etc., manufactured products, we've never seen all these things we like and are good for what we do out of a mere fucking lawless, not lawless, right? But like masterless tribe or whatever. They're not even fucking masterless, right? It's just understanding a natural organizing principle, right? That has three macrocosms. The leaders, the managers, and the workers. Leaders, managers, and workers. In the Old Norse, we would simply call them the Jarls, the Carls, and the Thralls. And before the exploitation of the Thrall, all it meant is that you're the freest guy. You're the freest guy. We're all working here. You're the freest. You don't have to fucking answer to anybody except when we just need the work done, which is only for a little while. Then you can go about and do your thing. We know you'll be back because you can't take care of yourself. We're taking care of you in exchange for you working for us. And that's what it is to be an employee. An employee is a thrall. You are enthralled in the service of someone else. That's not slavery. That's not exactly slavery. And there's a fine line of difference. A very fine line of difference. And it's a question of how capable of making a good agreement with the Carls that are doing their thing and providing you a place to be enthralled to. until you figure out how to be a Carl, because you are not condemned to being a thrall unless you yourself have condemned yourself to thraldom. And that's why America would talk about the middle class, the Carls. And the Carls, the idea was that attitude of, we want to be incredibly profitable in our business endeavors, which is great for the economy because it causes needs for thralls to have employment. Because the catch-22 of that is that a Carl is not obligated to employ you. It depends on the efforts of that Carl and what kind of manner in which he does his business in the world. Does his business require help that he doesn't already get from having a family? Because, when it was simple back then, your wife was doing something for you, or if you're the woman in question doing the thing, your husband's doing something for you. Granted, we're talking about way back in the day, so yeah, it's like she's the one being the helper because she's also raising the next generation while you're doing all that work, and that's her job, is to raise the next generation, which is what keeps the continuity of what you would consider a civilization in check, because they're the ones handling all the cultural aspects of it, all of the emotional maturity and development, helping the children figure out what it is to know themselves, and yada yada yada. But we seem to have a problem handling that. And we seem to have a problem arguing the significance of when we think we've figured out the primary component. It's just like, oh man, what is it? You know what? Oh man, these third wave feminists, right? And then you have to ask how you got there, right? I mean, I can be kind of, I can be a kind of a first or second wave, feminist, right? It would seem like everything was mostly fine through second wave feminism. Third wave and this fourth wave, which is best called post feminism, because it asks the very question. We've gotten to the epistemological, etymological fucking crux of the matter of our relationship with the psychological effect of how we define a word in how we navigate, manifest our reality. What is a gender? We're asking what a gender is all the time, and we don't have an agenda. We don't talk about agendas, we just talk about their genders. So, with the exception of 2020, life went a certain way after the last, that last first election, right? The 2016 situation, right? We felt this palpable change in the media, which was holding the entire psychic frequency of their world, and this is why Thomas Sheridan talks about wave function collapse, some of his best work in the subject matter, which falls in line quite well, actually, with with what maybe one could say is a Mandela effect psychosis, right? Because I believe that most Mandela effects, I'm leaving a little bit of room for doubt. Most Mandela effects, I think James True is right, because I kind of actually feel better about the idea that I was under a spell that then was broken to now see how the way it actually always was. Right? You just have to come to that in a way where you feel like it's giving you something. Otherwise, that idea feels like it's taking something away. Especially if you're building too much content, based on it, right? This was the inherent flaw with Tartaria, right? Is that it needed a particular narrative of what antiquity was for the archaeology and all of the other evidences that they were putting together to make sense. They were trying to force context of this concept as if it was a force that was an empire presiding over your forefathers. Not quite far enough in the past to really be called ancestors, but our forefathers. You know? And like there was an odd insecurity about people that couldn't leave room for that in debate. And I'm just like, motherfucker, this needs to be debated openly like this for a long fucking time. You just started fucking talking about this stuff just a couple years ago and needed a name for it and picked a name out of a fucking hat and then made the name a whole fucking market that it is that, as opposed to it being a reference point. And it got carried away in our minds because you shouldn't be fucking labeling fucking arms of research that way. It makes you look foolish because it's under the assumption that you're certain of a thing first. And most of y'all are just people looking at this shit on the internet like me, not out there in the field. And, going out in the field is not literally going for a fucking hike in your fucking region and go looking at, like, the rubble on the road and shit. Like, that's not, like, that's a little bit of something, but you're just hoping to find something that is in your backyard, right? And believe me, I'm a believer in mud fossils, all right? Okay, I'm a believer in certain aspects of hidden antiquity. I find some of the things, looking at aspects of Breakneck Ridge when I go climbing up there, and I wonder to myself, was there more up here than just this one ruined mansion, which is kind of like a tour in the park? Right? Because they got the ruins of this estate that's part of the greater trailhead area, and you can go explore the ruins there, and there's little placards with information about the estate's history, so on and so forth. But so what? Right? And you're not going to find proof for the big conversation you're having just because you found, like, a rusty hammer in the in the woods. I mean, my point is that you can't have that level of a committed fucking, like, arrogance. This is like why I said that I think that Jason Breshears is kind of a piece of shit, because all he had to do was sit on his ass in prison for a fucking decade or something like that and read old books. A luxury he had because he was forced to sit on his ass for quite a few years. He didn't have to wake up and take, certain responsibilities. He could do, he maybe chose to take certain responsibilities, like doing work in the prison or whatever, but, you're still dealing with the limitations of what happens when you are not capable of earning trust with society, right? And, I am not, and I'm only saying this Not because I am saying that, Jason is actually guilty of what he was, there for. I am saying that as just the merit of, his situation. He wants to go fucking argue with Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock, who's gone diving to the bottom of the fucking ocean to go look at megaliths that he's only read about and seen high definition pictures, maybe, in old books. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to build that up. You're gonna have to start doing some shit, Jason, if you want to have that level of bragging rights where you can be a complete piece of shit to James True. Go check out James True, awesome channel. And act like a complete piece of shit when you're the one asking people to debate you, Mr. Hotshot. I can sit on my ass after work all day too and do nothing else but read books. And be something in a few years, be capable of writing a book about it and snobbing around my book knowledge about it, and talking for endless hours on my channel about it with presentations and a whole following that talks the way that I do, so on and so forth. Sure, why not? But it's not what I want to do with my life. I'm not here to make any proofs of anything as such. I think I'm just waiting for when I'm out of here, like when I move away from the area, far away. I think that's when I really take off. Hopefully that's going to happen in the summer. Because here's my point. Despite America being in its perceived worst condition over the last 4 years, my condition has only improved in the last 2. I have earned that despite seeing anybody in government that looks like they were going to take any pressure off of the way that I wanted to live my life. And when you've hit a certain point in your life that you can do what you do, you'll realize how irrelevant it all is and how childish it feels to stand in line to push the button. Because I didn't need any of those particular people running anything for me to turn my shit around in my world. And that's what they don't want you to know. All right, I'll see you later. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me read this real quick. I got to get in there. I'm going to be late. Modernity has some cool things with it. Seemingly difficult manifestations. Yeah, well, yeah, Theo, that's good. Yeah, it's a good point. And like, I didn't read that at the time, but I'm glad I've now said what I just said in contrast to that thought, right? Because I just proved that listen, if you have to work in a graveyard, pick the bones until you can build something. All right, I'll catch you later.